Hello, welcome to Light from Light. My name's Daniel. Today we have a special guest, Mike Delaney, also known as the Football Choreographer. Mike's a passionate Catholic, football coach, someone using sport as a powerful tool really to evangelize. And so today we're going to explore Mike's love of football, his faith journey, how he sees the connection really between football and the gospel, and how he brings the good news in particular into schools, into sports fields across the country. So just invite you to share this episode with anyone that you think may benefit from hearing this. So Mike, welcome to the episode. Welcome to Light from Light.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. For those who haven't come across your work, who is Mike Delaney in a nutshell, and what do you get up to normally?
Well, when I'm asked to speak, I usually say, like, sometimes I feel very inadequate because I'm just a football guy. Okay, if it's a football subject, that's different. But if it's, a faith subject, sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm just this guy who's grown up in football. I'm not a theologian, I'm not someone that can quote scripture, really easily. So yeah, my background is all around football. Growing up, I was football mad, from a Catholic family on both sides, mum and dad's side. So football coaching, playing, choreographing, freestyling, loads of stuff around that. But in a nutshell, certainly as I've got older, I realised, actually, above all of that, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. Through my baptism, I'm a adopted child of God. And so that's my identity, really, a disciple of Jesus. Yeah, so that's how I would see it.
Yeah, I remember Jose Mourinho is a footballer. He said he had three loves, and they were three Fs. So the first was faith, and then the second was family, and then third was football. But obviously everyone knows him for his football. But I thought it was a really good way of setting the list, the priority list for him. You're known as the football choreographer. Obviously that's quite a unique title. I was wondering, can you explain where that comes from, what kind of work that involves?
Yeah, so I guess when you hear the word choreographer, you think of dancing, and I cannot dance. I can't choreograph dancing either. But football, yeah, because it's something that I've grown up with, and I've got this kind of background of coaching, playing at a decent level, and I was very into the tricks and skills and all of that side of things. In fact, I remember growing up in my late teenage years, walking along with my mate from school saying, imagine if you could make a living out of like football tricks and stuff like that. And we just laughed it off, like that's just not a thing. And then football freestyle started to become bigger. And I started to do these commercials kind of as a body double for footballers. And then I started getting called into the meetings with Nike and Adidas and these different companies. And they were asking me really to prepare the football action for these big stars. And then I was getting to work closely with the big star footballers. And I can do all the name dropping, Messi's and Ronaldo's and all that lot. And it's been amazing work. It's been very interesting. Been able to travel all over the place. Yeah, so my role really is to make sure that the football looks authentic, whether it's on a photo shoot, a football film, or commercials. I've done loads and loads of commercials over the years. So yeah, to choreograph the action and get it looking right.
And how many years have you been involved with that?
I think my first one was in 1999, something like that. No, earlier, sorry. 1996. Right. Because in 1997, I did a commercial for Adidas, where I was playing football on set with Beckham and Gascoigne and Del Piero, Zidane, Van der Sar, all that lot. And in those days, it was very relaxed. The players were just there all day. And so we were like playing 3v3, and I was hitting shots. Paul Gascoigne went in goal. And, I sort of look across and Beckham's hitting free kicks, and it's all very surreal. That's how it felt. And Hansi Müller was there, who had played for Germany. And he said, Mike, what's going on with your football? And I said, well, I'm sort of in between clubs at the moment, semi-pro stuff. And he said, well, why don't you come to Germany? There's no guarantees of anything, but we can look after you and try and get you looking a bit stronger and a bit faster and just see where you go. So I had a couple of years out in Germany and Switzerland, experiencing that. I mean, didn't make a big career out of it, but I'm still very grateful for that.
Yeah, because you've travelled all over the world, I imagine. And
yeah,
with that side of things. What about your background then? How did you fall in love with football? Was it a family thing?
Yeah, my dad was very into his football. Yeah, he used to sort of criticize me a little bit because he'd say, I mean, he was a sort of a big fan of mine. He's always encouraging me. But my dad, even though he was a little bit shorter than I am, he was very prolific in the air. He was like a goal scorer. So he'd play centre forward, and he'd sort of, be a bit fearless. And he'd sort of he'd said that he'd score goals with his head and he wouldn't even see the ball go in because he'd be sort of punched by the goalie at the same time. And he said, if you combine the two of us, you'd have like an international footballer. He said, because I didn't have your footwork. But he said, you don't have my kind of bravery and that, that the same thing that I had. So yeah, he always said, if you combined us, then you'd have had a proper footballer.
And you said you come from Catholic faith on both sides. Does he have a strong faith as well, your dad?
Yeah, so we were from dad's side are from a big Irish family. He was one of 14. My dad sadly passed away 9 years ago. And mum's side are from Burma, Myanmar,
Oh,
and
right. Yeah.
Catholic on that side as well. My dad had sort of troubles, a lot of troubles in his life, struggled with addiction, alcohol. And it's very sad, really, because he was a very loving man and a lovely person. And so sometimes people, seeing him in his state of being unwell, they couldn't always see. He was very intelligent, highly intelligent, very well educated. And his faith was there, but because of the illness, he drifted away. And I managed, in his later life, to get him to come back to Mass with me. So it was there, but my mum, on the other hand, has always been very devout. And I think her faith has kept her going through all of the challenging times. So she's a role model.
Is your mum's example of her faith, is that something that rubbed off on you, or did you come to it independently?
Yeah, so I grew up Catholic, and I was as a 14-year-old, I was altar serving, and I loved being involved in the Mass. But I did have my time where I drifted away. I would say in my late teens, 20s, maybe around the time of going out to Germany. I'm ashamed, really, when I think back to that time when I was living abroad. I don't remember going to a Mass. And it seems unthinkable to me now. Now, wherever I go now, the first thing I do is I look up where's the nearest Catholic church, where can I go? That's all I'm looking at all the time. And but thank God I felt called back. And I would say that was in my 30s. In my 30s, I was being called back to the faith.
Was there anything that really helped to make the faith personal then for you?
I seem to develop this love of, or this interest at least, in Marian sites, Lourdes and Fatima, and I was really struck by the stories. I found it very compelling, this story of like the three shepherd children, for example, from Fatima, and how they were threatened to tell the truth, and they stuck by what they saw, what they experienced. And so eventually I got to go to these different places. And I often say when I'm giving a testimony, so think of it like a little child, like a little toddler kind of lost, looking at all the shiny stuff. And that's how I was really. And I say that it's as if Our Lady took me by the hand, just brought me back to the faith, brought me back to the church, and to Jesus.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing for me. Around my early 20s, I went to Lourdes, and I'd say that was, I'd put it like that she really took, Mary really took me by the hand and led me to Jesus, back to him after a few years away. I think she's a very powerful intercessor.
I believe that.
People. Yeah. I think faith and football for me seems to go really well together. So I go to football games quite regularly. I'm a Brentford fan. My dad's a season ticket holder, so I get to go with him. And over the years, you get to see how many footballers really believe in God. But I think at this moment in time, there seems to be more of a prevalence of people who are speaking out for their faith. And I've seen recently, you've probably seen it as well, but there's a lot of coverage of like Crystal Palace football players who are really using their platform to speak about Christ. After they won the FA Cup, they were speaking out about their faith in Christ, and you see it in other places. Living in West London, Saka is a very a very important person for, well, local lad that grew up nearby in Greenford.
Yeah.
And his example, pointing to his faith, talking about how important it is for him to read the Bible,
Mm.
that sort of rubs off on the generations. But I was wondering, how would you account for that sort of connection between faith and football? Is it a natural connection that's there between the two?
It seems to be. I was used to, like, growing up, seeing footballers, running on the pitch, blessing themselves, and like some of the Brazilian footballers, I picture them with t-shirts under their Brazil shirts about Jesus, and so I guess I'm used to seeing that. I do think it's great that the footballers are becoming very vocal about their faith. I remember actually I worked on a film in Rome a few years ago, and the writer of the film was Frank Cottrell Boyce, who's Catholic, and I got to meet his wife, who's also a writer, at one of the screenings later on. And I said to her, like, me and Frank were working on this film, and we didn't ever talk about our Catholic faith. We didn't realise we were devout Catholics. And she went, "Oh, that's terrible." She said, "That's terrible that you didn't know that." As if like we should make it clear that we are, that we believe in our Catholic faith. So yeah, I think it's great that people are vocal about it, and I know it has to be genuine. Of course, there's no point talking about it and then it's not authentic and it's not genuine.
Yeah, yeah, it has to be lived out. Do you find it easy to speak about your faith now? Has it become
Um,
easier as you've got older?
yeah, I was always very quiet as a kid. I was a quiet child, and in my teens, I remember being painfully shy. But somehow I still seem to have this um, what's the right word? But like, I wasn't afraid to share my faith. So I remember getting in discussions at school, and the teacher once wrote like a report about me, as if like speaking about how I was quite surprisingly vocal at
Mm.
times. She didn't expect me to speak up, and I would. So, and I remember not really being affected by peer pressure. So like smoking and drinking and all of that, I could say no easily. It wouldn't. I wasn't worried about what people thought. So I feel like that was a gift really from God. That, and also it's helped me in other ways. Like just to not to be worried really what people think. Ultimately, what God thinks is the most important thing, and He gives us this command to share the gospel. So if He's on our side, then what do we have to be scared about?
Yeah, I think today's gospel where Jesus says exactly that. Do not be, do not be impressed by the fact that the demons bow down to you, but be impressed that, or be aware that your name is written in heaven. That's the most important thing. Like you said, who are you? A child of God. That's the most important core of who we are. What's your team, Mike? Yeah, the team you
Um,
support.
so I grew up. I say grew up. Still a Man United
Oh,
fan.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a big Man United fan, and he loved watching Dennis Law, Bobby Charlton, and George Best. That sort of trio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I've fallen out of love with it a little bit in recent years. I think it's because they're not quite the same side.
Yeah, it's
But
struggle at the moment. Yeah, my granddad's a
yeah,
big Man United fan.
oh
Huge
yeah,
Man United fan.
yeah,
Yeah, it's difficult now. It's difficult, especially Brentford are above Man United,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah. They're a strong side. Yeah.
just unheard of, really.
Mm.
Yeah. And Mike, I first met you a few months ago, and you were giving a talk about how you were speaking about sharing the good news of Jesus in schools. And I remember it was a really powerful talk, really powerful mission.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what if you could just explain what that looks like in practice, going into the schools and what you share with them in practical terms.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that cropped up really through prayer. I just felt this calling to speak to young people about my faith. And my first reaction to that was, well, I'm not a public speaker. Again, I'm just a football guy. Um, but if God's asking me to do this, then I have to trust that He will equip me and give opportunities, because I thought, who's phoning me up to give a speech. But I think it was only a couple of weeks later I got a call from a chaplain at a school asking me to share my testimony, and I thought, okay, here we go, it's starting already.
Wow.
So I did that, and I've actually done one just a couple of weeks ago in Stevenage, St John Henry Newman School there. So in practice, I pray about what to say, what message I should be putting across, and I've kept it the same actually for these ones, and it's really to help young people understand, or at least reflect on, that they're a child of God and that they are loved by God. And actually, we hear God is love, but do we take it to heart? Do we really reflect on it? That and how mind blowing it is, how incredible it is that the Creator of everything, of everything that we see, knows us intimately and loves us. I think that's incredible when we really reflect on it. And if we're baptized, we are children of God. So that's the message that I get across to the young people. I talk about their worth, and I talk about the footballers, and what's Messi worth and what's Ronaldo's worth, and all of that. And I kind of then change it to what if I tell you that my worth is the same? And what if I tell you that your worth is the same as these big superstars? And then you can see it's kind of making sense, at that point. So, getting them to understand that it's not about followers on social media. It's not about the sort of dress code that we have, or the, our achievements even. It's our identity in God.
Yeah, I imagine their minds are blown when you say it. When you say that, your worth is the same as Messi and Ronaldo. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's true. Your worth in the eyes
Yeah.
of God is the same. You're a child
Yeah.
of God. I saw the other day that you shared something on Instagram I'd never come across before, but is Saint Louis, King of France. He was sharing a quote. I'll just read it here. He said, "I think more of the place where I was baptized than of the cathedral where I was crowned. For the dignity of a child of God, which was bestowed on me at baptism, is greater than that of the ruler of the kingdom. The latter I shall lose at death, the other will be my passport to everlasting glory." It's such a
Powerful quote, isn't it?
in your
Yeah.
face
Yeah.
sort of quote.
Yeah.
But it's true. It reminds us of our dignity. We are children of God, and
Mm.
our names are written in heaven. So
Yeah.
what a marked dignity to have. Mike, what do you feel is the message that young people need to hear today? Has it changed over time, or is it a similar message since you've been doing this work?
Well, I still think the message that I feel that I'm to put across is that God has a plan for them. They are loved by God, and God has a plan for their lives, and their gifts and talents. None of it's an accident.
Mm.
It's all for a plan, and for God's glory, and for their good ultimately. Their joy, their inner joy and peace, because the world sort of around us promises us all kinds of things, but they're just distractions really from the most important thing. And I remember actually my dad one time, even though he'd sort of strayed away a bit in his faith, one time I was watching football with him. I used to go around the house and watch the football with him. And one time he just pointed at the Bible that was on his little coffee table. And he said, it was quite unusual, but he said, "Mike, all of this stuff that we're watching, none of this is important really. What's, really important is what's in there." And it was unusual for him to talk in that way. It surprised me, and obviously I've remembered it all these years later.
I remember my granddad sounds like a similar man. He was a man of immense faith, but
Mm.
he wouldn't be comfortable speaking about it openly. But there are occasions. It's almost like he's able to discern the right occasion to share something of his faith.
Yeah.
And those moments sort of stick with you. Yeah. He sounds like a similar man. Mike, in the schools, have there ever been any moments that have really stood out to you? Maybe where the Holy Spirit's been present. If you've seen things change with the young people at all?
The one thing I would say is that when I've done like an assembly, I include the football, and I show a little bit of the videos of the footballers to kind of grab their attention, and then I talk about my faith journey. That's all great, but then it comes to like the workshops, and I've done workshops, and I'm talking, for example, about Blessed Carlo Acutis in the workshop. And you can see the young people when they're coming in the class kind of buzzing, like, oh, Mike's here and we're going to be talking about football. And then they sit down and I say, right, we're going to talk about Blessed Carlo Acutis.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see some of them thinking, oh, religious stuff. And I'm looking at the faces. Some of them are very attentive. Others looked like they're going to switch off and go to sleep. But as the lesson goes on, I can see that there's certain things that's grabbing their attention, and that's a nice feeling. That for example, the talking about the Eucharistic miracles. I think some of those things they've not heard before, and I really noticed the attention was very much more intense at that point when I was talking about the website that Carlo had developed and some of the specific miracles. So yeah, it's nice to see that. I can't say that I've seen any anything like grand, like any sort of big sharing of faith. But I think sometimes, in a way, it's probably good for me to, so I don't feel like it's all, my doing. I've gone into a school and I've done this and that. I think I hope that their hearts have been opened in some way, and that God's working in their lives. And I may never get to see the fruit of that. But God knows.
You mentioned Blessed Carlo there. Does he really resonate with young people, you find, his life?
I think so, because the students that I was talking to recently, they were year 9, so quite close to his age, the age that he was when he died. And you can talk about the effect that people had on him, or he had on others, and the sort of the care he had of the poor and the homeless, and how it really, I remember hearing that he almost broke down, seeing someone sleeping rough. He's very sensitive to it. And at the age of 9, he'd created like a list, not only stored up pocket money to buy sleeping bags and things, but he'd created like a list of where people could go for a shower, where they could go for a coffee, and he'd done that at the age of 9 to give to people.
Wow!
So I think it's incredible, really. That example.
Yeah, it's deeply challenging as well. I remember hearing about the life of Blessed Per Giorgio Frassati, who I think will be declared a saint at the same time as Carlo Acutis, and his life is, similarly incredible. He was a great runner, loved to run. He loved to mountaineer. He loved sport. I think there's a proximity between sport and discovering God as well. I think there's a connection there as well. I mean, ultimately, because God wants us to enjoy this life, enjoy creation. Get out there and be active in these bodies that He has given us. Are there any other saints that stand out to you over these years? I'm trying to remember who's a patron saint of football. Do you know?
I don't know. No, I wouldn't know.
I have to Google that. Yeah.
So St. Francis of Assisi, I managed to, when I was working in Rome, one of the priests there, actually it was at the end of confession, he said, when you get a chance, do something for yourself. And if you get the opportunity, go and visit Assisi. And so it came to a weekend and I thought, I'm going to take his advice. I'm going to go. And it was stunning. I thought it was so beautiful. And I got to go to the tomb where Carlo is. And I went to pray at the tomb of St. Francis as well. And it's such a beautiful place. And during those weekends, because it was kind of not long after COVID, I couldn't just fly home to be with the family as I might have done. Well, I would have done. So I then took the chance to go to different places in Italy. So I went to Florence and San Giovanni Rotondo, where St. Padre Pio was. And it got to the last weekend, and I thought I should really go somewhere else now. But then I thought, no, I'm going back to Assisi. It just had made such an impression on me. So St. Francis, St. Padre Pio, St. Bernadette, of course, Our Lady. I would always say Our Lady, and St. Joseph. My confirmation saint is St. Patrick. I
Oh,
guess with the Irish connection.
yeah, yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my saint as
Is
well.
he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's funny how someone you choose 20 years ago. I chose him because he's Irish, and I really looked up to my granddad who's Irish, so
Yeah.
I really just chose him for that reason. But it's remarkable how over these years you can see that sort of connection with him. Obviously, he was a great apostle to the Irish, a great preacher of the faith. You sort of aspire to be like that as well. Oh, it's amazing that you're preaching the faith to young people in schools. Hopefully, there's more of that. What's on the horizon for this line of work? Hopefully, more of this. Hopefully, more
Well, yeah,
schools.
yeah. Hopefully, I stayed in the house of a priest there, Father Dennis, when I did the recent talks, and he messaged me afterwards and said, "Mike, do you talk in primary schools as well?" And I said, "Yeah, happy to talk in primary schools." So he said, "I think the school local to me, the primary school, would like you to come and do a similar thing." I guess because I've read a lot about Carlo Acutis. It's topical, the timing's right, isn't it? Yeah, with him going to be canonized on the 7th of September. So yeah, I'm quite comfortable giving workshops and talking in schools about him as well.
If anyone watching this would like to contact you about that sort of thing, where best to go to get hold of you?
They can go to, I guess Instagram's quite an easy one. Just drop me a message on there.
To search
Um,
for Mike Delaney or
Mike Delaney FC. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, great. Okay. Well, Mike, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to
yeah,
hear
for me too.
about this. Yeah, thank you for your time and your story, your faith, sharing about your background there, and be assured of my prayers, Brother Thomas's prayers as well. And
Thank you.
for anyone listening, please share this little recording with anyone you think would find it helpful. And also, we also like to hear from you as well. So if there's anyone can think of a answer to this question, have you seen faith or sport come together in your life or community? Mike, I just finished with a funny story of myself. I played football up until about 16 years old. Always loved football, but I was terrible at it. So I never really had a position. So I'd be
Okay.
striker maybe for a few months and then midfielder for a few months. But I used to move around. But anyway, I used to get games because the team was so small, and they put me on a left back once, and the other team at the kickoff they targeted me. So as soon as they kicked off, they had this really fast guy speed off past me, and I was too slow, too lumbersome really to know what to do. So I wasn't sure what to do, so I just picked up, reached out my hands, grabbed the ball in my hands, and then just dropped it after I realised what I'd done. And the ref was found it so comical that he just gave a free kick and allowed me to carry on. But he'd never seen anything like it.
No.
So, yeah, hopefully never see anything like that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks
Pleasure.
for joining.
Thanks a lot.